The Gnostic Film and Television Podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Gnostic Film and Television Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Chambers. Today's show, we will be looking at the film The Adjustment Bureau. I'm really happy to have 434 joining me today. We get into quite a lot of topics, not just the Adjustment Bureau. We talk about psychedelics, the nature of reality, all weird and wonderful metaphysical ideas. Hope you enjoy the show. Thank you for joining me today, Peter. Would you mind just telling my listeners what 434 is?
Oh, this will be difficult to make it short. So basically, 434 is a set of values transmitted to us through some sort of a psychedelic portal. The messages are sent by psychedelic entities, and 434 represents the values of love, joy, and hope. They're supposed to be the foundations of human life. And I was the precursor to that, and I was told that with 434 messages, I'll start something very, very important. And it looks like it's slowly happening. So people are subscribing to this, I wouldn't say ideology, I would say the truths, the psychedelic truths, outer dimensional truths about what human life is and who we are as those, physical beings in this reality. That's the long explanation. The short explanation would be YouTube. 44 is a YouTube channel and a few other social media accounts where I upload videos about these messages.
So, do you have any experience with Gnosticism then, or Gnostic ideas?
What do you understand through Gnosticism?
Well, a really simplified version of it is that Gnosis is Greek for knowledge, where you've basically had a peek behind the wizard's curtain, or you've left Plato's cave. Basically it means that you know that there is a spiritual realm that transcends this reality. You know of God, basically. That's a really simplified version of it, though. I'll tell you my story in regards to Gnosticism. Like you, I've taken my fair share of psychedelics, and I was under the assumption that it was all just an exploration of the mind and psyche, and it could still very well be, but on one of my trips, I could see this language. It looked alien, but it was clearly a real language, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But I had this feeling that this was a part of knowing that God was real, or knowing that the spiritual realm was real. That there is something beyond this reality, and it was just like, I don't know. It was kind of like waking up. I wonder that's why people say spiritual awakening. It felt like I'd remembered that. I remembered that there is a God, that I remembered that I had a soul, basically, that there is a truth to this. But, acid is acid, LSD is LSD, in terms of, I don't know, it wore off, and I just went back to my normal way of thinking. I just went back to, baseline reality, just, back to normality. But just out of pure synchronicity, there was a video on YouTube that just came on in regards to Gnosticism, and it started talking about all weird and wonderful stuff like the Nag Hammadi library, and it showed these ancient texts, and I recognized the language on these texts was the same language I saw on my trip. Now, I've never even heard of Gnosticism before this, and yeah, you could make the argument that I might have had that language in my subconscious, but I started reading up about Gnosticism, and as you can imagine, I freaked the fuck out. I felt like I was a character in a Lovecraftian fiction. And then I made the obvious connection between psychedelics and spirituality, and I realized that these psychedelics are possibly a gateway to the spiritual realm, and that these machine elves that you talk about might have been behind the experience on my trip. So I put machine elves into YouTube, and I found your videos, and that's why I invited you onto the show, because I think you've had gnosis. I think you've had knowledge of the divine. I think it's modern day Gnosticism that you've experienced.
Recording these videos, people have been coming to me and saying what kind of a label they want to use for what I do and what I have experienced. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of things that people will say that what I experience actually is. They call it many things, and I actually had a problem with this myself for a long time. And even if you ask me now, like you just asked me a moment ago, what 434 is, I've been doing this for two. I mean, I've been communicating with these machine elves for almost 6 years now, 5.5 years. But it's really, you can use a simple definition of, you're tripping on mushrooms and then you have visions and contact with strange psychedelic entities, but it goes so much further than that. And I think for me, the defining moment was when I met the energy, which we call God. That was the most out of ordinary experience of my trips, and that was when I learned about what it is that our reality is made of, what governs it, and everything related to it. But machine elves told me that they're actually part of the energy. They're part of the creator, and actually, they don't call them the creator. They call them the energy. They always find it amusing that we call it God, and how many names we have for this energy. And they say that you don't understand that it's just one energy. There's no different types of gods, and you're arguing about this makes very little sense. So it's very interesting to see how we're basically wrong about the whole thing, how human we are about this. And to make things more interesting, I was supposed to actually upload a video about Christianity today and the human definition of God, and I didn't make it, so I'll upload it tomorrow. But it's exactly what I wrote a video about. It's how Christianity differs from the teachings of Machine Elf, because Machine Elves made it super easy for everybody to understand without any culty, any religious undertone. They just basically explain what it is in simple English with very simple words and very simple visions. Well, no, the visions are not simple, but the translation of the vision is quite simple. And they made it clear that it's just one energy that controls everything. It's manifesting in vibrational frequency, and depending on what you want to tap into, whether you want to tap into low frequency or high vibrational frequency, that's the type of experience you'll have in life. And if it's high vibrational frequency, then you're getting closer to the divine. And if you tap into the low frequency, then you get closer to what we call, the devil or whatever the low frequency is. They've never told me anything about any negative or any type of evil entities. They also have a different definition of evil, but they let me get in contact with the divine, whether we call it God or the energy, whatever that is.
I think it's fascinating how courageous you've actually been with the exploration of these compounds and of consciousness in general. Though I haven't seen any entities myself, I just knew that they were the ones that triggered the visions, or I suspect they were the ones. And I think I don't need to take them myself anymore. I think it was Alan Watts who said, once you get the message, hang up the phone. And I didn't just hang up the phone. I smashed it up and ripped the fucking cord out the wall because I was that terrified. It was enough for me to be, that's all I needed to know. I don't feel like I need to take any more.
I had an opportunity while I was traveling through a dimension. They showed me, if you would like, we'll show you the depth of your mind. We'll tell you how deep it goes. And they show me what a human mind is made of, what consciousness is made of. And I was shown those deep layers upon layers of, it's difficult to say what it was. It's, what we consider ourselves to be, what defines me. It's basically just this outer layer, this thing outside. And I was shown that there's many, many more layers beneath it. And they said, if you want to, we can dive into that. And I was going through something trivial, something, I don't know, like my past girlfriends or whatever. And I said, no, I don't want to. The truth is that it was so horrifying to see the depth of this consciousness that I realized that I'm not ready for this, because it would probably completely change my understanding of myself, and probably would have, that would have been, I can imagine that would have been probably a very difficult trip. And I didn't feel like I wanted to do that. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And I thought, this is some serious stuff. And I never went there. So there's much more that I could have done, but I didn't do it. But I'm planning on doing more, definitely, in the future.
Yeah, I mean, psychedelics aren't for everyone, but they've really helped get my head sorted. And it's not like every trip was pleasant, but I do think that they're beneficial.
For example, in my case, I spent 30 years cleaning up a room, and the room was almost clean. There were a few things like, I don't know, you had to paint the walls, that kind of stuff. And right in the middle of a wall, there's a tiny door. And you think, okay, I've never opened that door. Let me try. And then you open the door. It turns out that the door opens to a giant castle filled with just clutter and items. And turns out that you not only have to clean this up, but you also have to learn why the door is there and why you have all this stuff behind this tiny wall and this tiny room. So that's how I see psychedelics. It's basically you living in this tiny room for most of your life until one day you decide to open this door, and it turns out that this room is nothing, that the whole existence is actually behind that wall. And then you go there and you realize that it's a giant, just a warehouse of things that you will not even have a chance to explore for the rest of your life. And that's what psychedelics are. So you can choose to stay where you are in the tiny room, just watch television, eat your fries or whatever, and then die at the age of 80, not knowing that there's a whole world behind this tiny door.
Yeah. I mean, Terence McKenna actually said something similar. He says it's crazy that people go their whole lives having never experienced the psychedelic experience. Something along the lines of that. It should be intrinsic to the human experience.
I've through my journey, I learned that there's so many people who are not ready to see the truth. Even not about the world, because that's a whole different aspect of reality. I mean, the whole world, the whole life is a lie. It's a giant designed lie for you to be asleep. But the truth about yourself, most people are busy with trivia that will help them distract themselves from themselves. It's the purpose of it is to stop interacting with oneself so that you don't really learn the truth about who you are. And that's the scary aspect of existence, not the fact that you don't want to go deeper in life, like things like philosophy or maybe psychedelics, but the fact that you will not even look in the mirror to understand what it is that you're made of. And if you don't ever learn what you're made of, that you don't really know what you have to give, you don't know what you want from life, you don't know what life has to offer. That's the true drama. That's the true tragedy of actually people being asleep. That it's a waste of a very precious life. And Machinel's made it clear that this existence is very precious because it's rare. Apparently, to get here to this state, it takes a lot of effort, and it's a privilege. It's a very precious existence, and we waste it on worry and fear and things that are very human to us and make very little sense. But what can you expect from an existence where you don't remember where you came from and you don't know where you're going to? It takes a lot of courage actually to try and get yourself out of this. But the reward for this courage and for having the guts to actually do something that allows you to see behind the curtain is so absolutely rewarding that everybody should do this. It's just that not everybody has the tools, the mental capacity for that kind of stuff, and it's not for everybody. There's many people who don't have a strong psyche. They don't really. The things I've seen, the things I've experienced, I mean, an average person, it always brought me on the edge of sanity. So I can imagine an average person, it would probably devastate them. And I said, there's a video I made called Dangers of Magic Mushrooms.
Yeah, that video, that reminded me of some traumatic memories of a similar trip that I had. Not to the extent that you experienced it, but some of the things that you said in that video I've experienced.
I'm describing this in my book. I dedicated one chapter to this where I said, look, you need to think 5 times before you actually decide to take psychedelics, because your life could end now, not in a sense that you stop living. It's just that
Yeah.
your life that you think you have is gone. There's no turning back. It's like literally